Welcome to another edition of the Business Builders Podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to the construction and trade industry. Today's guest is a business strategy consultant, Elvin Box, who has an amazing, varied career. And on that note, Elvin, obviously you've gone from apprentice professional footballer right away through to international speaker. How'd you get there? Where did it all start?
It's stumbled a lot of the time. So I suppose where the story starts, my career, was that I was dead set on being a professional footballer, which wasn't just like this mad dream, because from the age of 13 I was training at Chelsea 2 nights a week. And during that period, Queen's Park Rangers came in and asked me if I'd go to train for them. So 3 nights a week, I was training with professional football clubs. And basically, I was seen as one of the prospects in the London area. You know, that's not overplaying it. That was a fact.
So there was no thoughts of any other work career. It was, I'm going to be a professional footballer.
100%. Yeah. The only thing that was I thought about, but that was later on in my career, was to be a football journalist. And that was like, you know, how I started to put it together by the age of 16, is I'll have a football career and then I go into journalism as well, because, and to this day, I have a love of English. And that's the English and art was the only 2 things that really sparked me off at school. So it wasn't a mad dream. It was actually, I was on that trajectory. I was taking that career path. At 13, I started to train at Chelsea on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And at 15, Queen's Park Rangers wanted me to train with them as well. And that was on the Wednesday.
Did that stop you from training at Chelsea then, with the arrangement?
At that period, it was okay until the first one to come in, who was going to sign you on associated schoolboy forms, because that locked you in back then, that they had a focus on you for your last season, if you like, your last school year. Then they'll make a decision. So it didn't come with a promise you'll definitely get it. It's let's see how you are, but you can't go off anywhere elsewhere. Like we want to start to mould you into a Queen's Park Rangers footballer. And they were doing a very good job actually at the time, to be honest with them. And this was the thing, is that I took my eye off the end goal. The end goal was to be a professional footballer, and to be, whatever way you went to get to there was almost immaterial. The best example I can give you was the ex-Sheffield United and England midfielder, Tony Curry. Tony Curry's dad worked with my dad.
Oh, wow.
And when it was coming in, to the, you know, make your mind up time, he said, because my dad was George, he said, tell your boy that QPR didn't want Tony. They rejected him. He said, always remember that. And so when the fateful day came, sat down at the training ground at the end of the season, after the last game we had, and we knew that we would say, yes, you are going to be given apprenticeship forms, or you're not. And so it was done beautifully. Frank Sibley, you know, was a legend at Queen's Park Rangers. He made his debut at 15. And he was very kind about it. He explained that they wanted another season to look at me. So what they were going to offer me was amateur forms. So you come in 1 night a week to train. On Saturdays, you'll be with the loose squad, and you'd be playing or within it, and we would have another look. And so what I said, stupidly, was that I want to be an apprentice. And that's when he said to me, he said, there is another club who are interested in you. Never assume. All right, so there's 2 things. Know where you want to be. I want to be a professional footballer. Number 2, never assume. My dad had some conversation with Crystal Palace, because they knew the decision was coming up. How's Elvin getting on? So I said, no, I know it is. We're having a chat. But I didn't know who it was. He meant Fulham Football Club. which I found out later on. This was the season Moore, Marsh and Best rocked up.
Yeah.
Moore was my idol.
Yeah.
Rodney was brilliant, but Best was the best in the world. What a bloke to play football with.
Yeah.
The nearest I got to him was I ran into him one night on the King's Road. Not quite the same.
In a bar.
And so those are lessons I learned, was that know what it is you really, really, really want. And the next thing is never assume, because I made an assumption. I didn't have all of the facts because of that. And know how long you've got to make a decision.
All of those things you mentioned there are perfect examples for business strategy, which I assume you take with your clients and trying to determine that vision as early as possible and not losing sight of it.
Yep. So that gives you, I suppose from that you can understand is that my dad said to me, well, what are you going to do? You're going to stay out at school and see like if you can get your A levels? Now, what are you going to do? I said, I don't want to stay at school anymore. I want to start earning some money. 16. And purely, I thought, right, if I've got a trade to fall back on, so if I get injured or anything, that'd be a great way of going about being a professional footballer. So that was good, and I would say that you've got to have a plan B.
Yeah.
At least, now if you've got a C and a D even, but you've got to have a plan B. Because if all else fails, what are you going to do now? My best mate, his mum had got him on to an apprenticeship course at Yule Tech, as it was then. It's now North East Surrey called College of Technology.
Yeah.
And I thought, genius, this is what I need. I'll do this because I agreed with Crystal Palace.
What is the apprenticeship?
I'm sorry, carpentry and joinery. Right. So that's good. Apprenticeship with carpentry and joinery. That'd be brilliant. And
being good with your feet, now good with your hands.
Yeah. So what?
Bit of a change.
So cut as long story short is that I thought, no, this is the act of genius. This is what I need to do. This is a great idea because I can get a qualification. I can be a carpenter and joiner. So if it all goes wrong, if I get injured, that's it. But I still want to be that professional footballer. So at least then, that was quite a good idea. That was me thinking was good. That's your trajectory, which brings in, what is your purpose? Now, this is one of the things I talk about with businesses. Now, what is your purpose? And I saw myself as the purpose was to be a professional footballer. So, it was going okay, but I've got to tell you this, is that I made the decision, I'd done the interview with Nescott. I was all signed up, ready to rock and roll in September. And as we first left school, me and my mate, who was also going to Nescott, we did some labouring. We were labourers.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. I was about to go off, actually, and start doing pre-season training with Crystal Palace. And I boldly said the day before, that's it, mate. It's the last day I ever do on a construction site. What a visionary. Honest to God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I spent the rest of my life on construction sites.
Yeah.
Right, a little bit in between.
Yeah.
Okay, so I jumped the gun a bit there. Yeah. And so as it all panned out, is that I very successfully did the first year was at Yule Tech. Very proud to say, at that time, The Waltons was a major TV programme.
Oh, right, John Boy. Yeah.
And do you remember John Boy?
Yeah.
Now, you're not going to believe this, but I truthfully used to look like John Boy. I had the same fringe, not the American accent. I didn't wear, the dungarees.
Ron Howard. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got called John Boy. One, I looked like him. And secondly, I would spend my afternoons in that first year in the library trying to find out more about this carpentry and joinery business.
Would you say that's your nature as well then, that whatever is set in front of you, your nature, you're intense, you will study it, you don't take any shortcuts, it's your nature to really delve into any subject that you undertake?
Yep.
Is that your character?
Yeah. Yeah. as I've got older, as I matured, no, I just got older. There was an understanding that sometimes you have to jump at opportunities and then try to back it up with some more information, and to be, but yeah, if you take it from Nescott, I got really involved in learning. My apprenticeship, my first year was at Nescott, but all of the local employers were brought in to see which kids they wanted.
Yeah.
And so there was carpentry and joinery, bricklaying and plumbing. And we had, I think it was the first six weeks to make our minds up. We dabbled with all. And Thursdays and Fridays were technical education. And also maths. Which is funny. So anyway, it was very, very well put together. And so I determined I would do the carpentry and joinery. But, I'd never even did woodwork at school. Okay, but
not even a pencil case.
To be honest, it was the lesser of all the three evils, really.
Yeah.
I did.
But from a construction perspective, the carpenter is involved from the shuttering right the way round to the second fix. So you're constantly. It's this from a construction perspective. It's an ideal trade in many respects. It depending, where the career takes you.
Yeah, that was per chance, because obviously at that time I wasn't that aware. And very interestingly, right, is that in the lead up to being introduced to employers, I found out later that the college tried to usher forward the ones they thought the company would have that was right for that company. Now, the company who came in and I spoke to was Holloway White Allen. Holloway White Allen were a major London master builder.
Big reputation.
And they were famous for the remodelling of the Bank of England in the 1920s. They were a major civil engineering company. And the Holloway brothers bought Major White Allen's interior decorating business. Good strategic move, by the way, because that was the market they wanted to get into. He's the boy. He's got brilliant clients. So we make him a good offer and it becomes Holloway White Allen.
Right.
And a bit on the business side, everything was going swimmingly until there was a thing in Aussie called the Snowy River Scheme. And they basically bet the ranch without knowing it. It's very, very quickly. Disney was famous for betting the Disney studios when he put together Snow White. If that failed, everybody was out of work. Gone. All that work, not everybody knows it, by the way. I'm talking to entrepreneurs and stuff, but Disney, one of his best clients was a dentist. Disney was basically on his backside because this guy said to him, "Shall I come to you or you come to me?" I said, No, you come to me. And he put together, for this dentist, a cartoon. And he never looked back.
Amazing, isn't it? Some of these stories.
And here's the thing: never ever forget the ones who put you there. Okay? Never ever forget your supporters. When Disneyland was opened, one of the major guests was that dentist and his family.
Yeah,
that takes some, doesn't it? Because the dentist said about it. He said, "But by the way," he said, "why do you want me to come to you?" He said, "I had holes in my shoes." He said, "I think because you were eating bully beef, which is corned beef." He said, "No, I love that." But anyway, to get back to where we were talking about, Disney very famously bet the studios on Snow White. And if anybody wants to know why Dumbo was that much shorter, because he wasn't going to take that bigger risk again. But it was really excellent. And Holloway Brothers didn't look at it like that. They put all their money on the Snowy River Scheme, and basically, but they were floundering. John Lang bought them. So that's why I ended up as a John Lang apprentice through Holloway White Allen.
Okay.
The tutor at Nescott said to me, the following year, he said, I wasn't going to put you forward for Holloway Allen. I said, why was that? He said, I thought you were useless. So I looked at him, he said, as a carpenter joiner, you were only average. He said, but I've got to tell you something. He said, you're not half good at writing and communication, you know. He said, you should write a book.
Yeah.
And because Holloway Allen took on apprentices with one thing in mind, when they took her from Epsom or Nescott, it was there, so he was on the first part of the trajectory to up the ladder. So it was very, very fortunate, as you say, I was somebody who wanted to learn. I've been called a learning monster since then.
Yeah.
You know, and so that meant I was with the right company at the right time. You know, perfect place for me because it meant for that first year I was at Nescott getting some, if you like, the hands-on stuff in a joinery shop. And then 2 days a week was technical study, which it was technical study. We didn't go anywhere near tools.
This is under Langs.
Yeah, so they paid for my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Which started on the 18th of November, 19 frozen to death.
Yeah.
And
BC. Yeah.
so me and all the other kids, we went to the college, and then at the end of college, that was it. We were out working with the companies. We would come back in 1 day a week and 1 evening a week to continue on, because that was the trajectory. You've got to get your city and guilds. And with Holloway Allen, is you're going to get your city and guilds, then you've got to have to get your advanced city and guilds, then you've got to do your full tech, and then you're going to do MCOB. And so that was, I was given a trajectory.
Yeah.
But it was one, I would like to say I flourished in, but it wasn't much carpentry and joinery still.
So from there then, obviously you're doing your joinery. Where did it start to transform? Was there a key moment that you transformed into, say, more of a management role? Was there something that you can relate to now?
What I'd managed to do was to get through, by the skin of my teeth, the City and Guilds Ordinary, the City and Guilds Advanced. As luck would have it, I flourished in the next year because it was the bridge year. I had to go from being a craftsman to a technician. Good old-fashioned stuff, good education. And I thrived. I absolutely thrived on it because it was far more managerial. And that meant I got my higher national certificate. Ta-da. And I got married that year, basically. And as luck would have it, I was transferred over to a job, and you'd be given an opportunity to be initially it was a carpentry and joinery foreman. And so I was given the opportunity to be the foreman, and I couldn't quite break down the door to be the assistant site manager. So lo and behold, there's a baby on the way, and I'm working in the City of London, and you know the signboard. Now I know it was the John Elliott signboard.
Yeah, the great man. Yeah.
And so I had no idea who John Elliott was or what the company was, but everywhere I looked, I could see his signboard. And so I persisted at Holloway's to try and get the break. And it wasn't forthcoming. And at my own initiative, I actually wrote off I found out who to write to at John Elliott. Must have done something right, because this is a long time ago. This is handwritten. That is how it goes.
With a quill.
Yeah. The old black sting-majig. Yeah. Anyway, so what happened was that I was invited to an interview and on a project. And so I rocked up.
And is this as a managerial role? This is a site manager?
Yeah, this is to be like assistant site manager.
Okay.
It all went swimmingly because, sat down and extraordinarily confident. By the way, when I had my interview at Nescott, I was sitting there with my mum and my dad. And because he said, "Oh, you want to be a footballer?" I said, "Oh." He said, "Oh, you got something brilliant." So my mum said, "He is."
You can always rely on your mum.
That's right. So anyway, so I sat down with Eddie Bickerdike. We both know Eddie.
Yeah.
One of the directors, so he sat me down. I said, "Oh, but before you start," I said, "I'll just prepare something so you can have a look through it." I said, "Oh, right." So I went, right, and so that's one of the ways. There's another bit of advice is that you need to control a meeting. Now, I didn't think this at the time, but I thought this is the way I was going to do it, and I would advise you: you can't be what they call a status 10 type person. You cannot look down at people and say, I really haven't got time, but you've got to be a status 8. And I didn't know this until I started to learn improvisation, which is another story, and learning about acting, is that you've got to be the person they like. Eye contact, be confident, let them speak, but you are trying to steer it your way. So that was the first thing. I put something in front of him that would steer him. Now, I didn't know that at the time, but no, this is good. And one of the things I try to say in coaching is that if you can, get side by side. And what you're reading about is depersonalised. They're not looking at you, they're looking at that. And so you're talking about what's in front of them. And what I was talking about was in front of them was, as they say, good smatter. You know, I'd worked with Holloway White Allen, and I've been there as an apprentice. And, you know, I've got my HNC. And so, and looking at it, you know, fit, healthy, strong, just married, got a baby on the way. And I didn't have to say it, but I was blindingly ambitious. And that all came across. And so that conversation, that when we did look at one another, it was into his eyes. And making sure that I was never, ever anything else but that status 8. But we were answering the questions. I was being asked the questions I wanted him to ask.
Yeah.
And everything was looking great. And I got introduced down to West Barnes Lane, John Elliott Group, West Barnes Lane.
Yeah.
And as you know, it was really impressive. Only small, but really impressive. But it's like an architect's office.
Yeah, it's all smoke glass. Yeah.
Wasn't it? It was really, really good. And lo and behold, I met Stewart, who was one of the directors. And he was perfect. He was going to rubber stamp what Eddie had said. And away we went. And so that gave me the opportunity that I'd been desperately looking for. Now, I was with Alex for just over 5 years, and I learnt an immense amount that I still use to this very day. So I suppose in construction terms, it was the necessity to actually have a very good program. That's one area that was still in construction in general was not good. You know, getting the Americans called the schedule.
Yeah.
And get the program. Because to be fair to John and the Elliott Group, they were trying to introduce that.
Yeah.
And that's what we were, it was obviously we were lacking that.
But actually having the program and working to the program is so critical, because you may have priced it right, you may have margin in the job, but if it stretches, if it runs on, if you're over too much labour on there, you're killing the job. And especially with small contractors, they just don't see it. They just don't see it. It's very small contractors, half of them don't even have a program. You know, actually, if you don't mind, obviously because we know each other, that story, because it's about leadership as well, and where you had moved on, you had a successful career at Elliott's, and you had an offer, I think it was Mace, forgive me if I'm wrong, and you were looking, but John Elliott took time to come and see you. And that little story, it always impresses me, because he was a wonderful man.
I was on the project that the John Elliott Group had their first construction site death.
Right.
I was perfect. It was really weird. I was perfectly and utterly calm. Perfectly and utterly calm. I was the one who saw the HSE. I had to write, tick the boxes, do the paperwork. You know, the worker had been killed. I was the one when the police came in, but at the time they weren't that nice about things. But I've later learned, they have to make sure no one's been murdered. They don't hang about.
Yeah, got to see it from both sides.
I was calm personified. And about 6 to 8 weeks later, I started to feel highly anxious. And I went and saw the doctor and cried my eyes out. So it was what we say now is post-traumatic stress, PTSD.
Yeah, PTSD, yeah.
And he gave me what he termed the housewife's favourite was Valium. But I had to struggle and find my way to get back, if you know what I mean. It's more of that a bit later.
Yeah.
So that was my first encounter with mental health problems, because it did send me scatty. So what happened was that I needed to move on. I wanted desperately to get more big project experience. So I had several interviews. I had an interview on a Friday at Bovis House with Bovis. I did exactly as I did with Lelliot, because that worked. Everything I wanted them to talk about, I brought in. And at the end of the interview, I was offered a very, very good job. A very good job. Because he said, I would like to offer you a job as an assistant construction manager, but you're not going to take it. I said, no, I didn't come here for that. I was made a construction manager. That was it. And a lot better salary. And they were superb. Utterly superb. The best move ever made. But Lelliot, to his credit, the day I left was a Friday. There was 2 people on the project who were going to leave the company. One was me, and the other was a guy who was 72. He decided I've had enough now. And so he barged in, he said, are you all right? You know, like a big handshake. He said, if you ever need to come back, you come back, but you've chosen a bloody good company. And he didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
He didn't have to do that. And he wasn't wrong. They were brilliant. The career moved forward. I was there for about 8 years. I got my MCOB because of them. I started my MBA because of them. And by the time I'd left, I'd experienced all forms of contracting. I was up to a senior project manager. And they were phenomenal, because I had every form of contracting, even working client side. It was superb. This is where you got a bit, again, didn't learn my lessons. Because if you see Buddha, kill him. it's, you know, if it looks too good to be true, it is. And an opportunity came up, was way too good to be true. I didn't think it through. I didn't need to make that decision that quick. I need to look at the options. What was the final goal, Elv? Not that thing about the next 5 years. Okay, but there's a lot more to it, especially at 30 years of age, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I made the wrong decision. I joined the wrong company. It all ended in tears. Quickly. Very, very fortunately, I got a good job. I was working with the Shell part of Carillion. I was in it's a really good company. That's where luck came in. I jumped ship before they went under. I went off and did my own thing because I had some stuff that I wanted to get on with. As luck would have it, I met a bloke for a chat about what do you want to do next. 2 weeks later, he said, I've just met a company and I've told them you're the bloke. I said, you really? I said, yeah. So I joined Kia. I joined Kia. It wasn't quite the right fit. Very, very good company, but I wasn't the right fit. As luck would have it, I'd done a 1-day session at Mace in creativity, which is using improvisation. They were blown away by it, and they wanted to offer me a job, and I'd already accepted a job from Kia. But 2 years later, I went back and said, are you still interested? And as luck would have it, they were, and I was at Mace.
Was that the start of the kind of the independent consultancy part of your life, where you kind of moved on to doing, actually going back as well, I just thought with the PTSD, with the mental health issues, and obviously now with the prostrate movement that you are so heavily involved in. I was just wondering if that period kind of lent you in that direction. Do you think it was that period where you had the problems with the unfortunate death on site?
Yes.
And then you obviously with journalism, with the tech side, that's all a very creative kind of environment. So naturally you got that creative bias in you. Do you think that's what took you in the direction where you are now, subconsciously, or was it, this is what I'm going to do?
To answer that as best I can, Mace were a very entrepreneurial company, and they always were. But there's a term which is that P-Shot came up with, to be an intrapreneur. And intrapreneurs have entrepreneurial spirit within an organisation. And Mace wanted that. So an opportunity came up for behavioural safety.
Right.
That gave me an opportunity to, it'd been some time coming, but I needed to get back in. I'd never forgotten the day the guy died, ever. To the extent that when I started doing the behavioural management training, a lot of people recognised the bit, and they always recognise it. It said, because the chapter was One Sunny Day in Knightsbridge. Because it was one sunny day that bloke was killed. And so what it meant, and that's what I learned, and there's another learning lesson, this is a good positive, is that so people can understand a story and listen to the story. There's two, Dr. Brené Brown was the one renowned for it. You've got to have data and you've got to have soul. So if you want to sell anything, the data alone won't do it. The soul, the story does it. And bang on. Yeah, that's the best advice I give everybody. You've got to have the data, because there'll be people in the room looking for the figures, which is right. You know, that's, you know, we're MBAs for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That's it. But the soul, and it was easy to sell the soul bit because they could see I was cutting up every time I said, this is what I want you to do. This is why you need this behaviour. I do not want you to be where I was. Now, this is what actually carried on, is that I didn't want people to make the same mistakes as I did. I'd done that at Bovis with the Chartered Institute of Building exams. I really did annihilate my first lot, and I was brilliant on the course to tell them how you do it right. Again, I gave them the data, but I gave them, do not go this route.
Yeah.
You know, and so the behavioural management stuff, that was really quite intrapreneurial, because I had to do internal selling. Just because I worked for Mace didn't mean that each project was going to do it. I had to go and sell it to the project, which was good, really, because it meant that you had to take it as, don't forget, your salary comes out what you go and sell. But it must have been pretty good because we were selling externally as well in the end. So yes is the answer. The entrepreneurial bit, and more importantly, I was let off the reins. Big corporate, but they never came as corporate. But I rarely went into the office. And although somebody reported it was management by exception. All right, this month, no bad feedback, carry on.
Got to have a decent culture to do that.
Got to be trusted.
Yeah, so that's my point, yeah.
And so this is an interesting arena for, like, very MBA, but not. The Ashridge business model, which is the mission model. And it's really, really, really careful. They do it as a triangle, and it all has to be in synergy. So whatever your purpose is, you've got to know your purpose. Okay, so you got that. And what do you value? What are your values? Okay, and what behaviours have you got? And the last bit of triangle, what's your strategy? Right over at the end. Unless you got, what's your purpose? Okay, and what's your values? What's your behaviours? Lelliot was basically that. He knew his purpose. He just said, I want to be the biggest, I want to be the best. And I know my audience. Where John and lots of businesses, the strategy is really difficult. It's bad enough getting the other 3 points, but to get it so all is aligned, you've got the strategy that does meet your purpose and your values and your behaviours, and your clients love that. And what Elliot was really good at, not just my clients, the ones who work for me. One of the only men I've ever met who trusted his clients and his employees as one.
Yeah.
Without them, I haven't got them.
Yeah, amazing, man.
He was amazing. So, yes, that's where, if like, this is where I am now, because it became clear to me several years ago now. I read a very well-known recruitment consultancy. The CEO said the trouble with consultants is they don't like to manage and they don't like being managed. It became pretty damn clear. Going to bring in Dolly Parton at this point. Any excuse to bring in Dolly Parton. But Dolly Parton is on record of saying what you've got to do is find out what you do well, naturally. Now do it on purpose, see if you can make money.
So the points you've been making about obviously purpose, the vision, if anybody's listening to this, whether you're a big or small company, medium-sized company, they're just prerequisites. They have to be ingrained in the business for you to get off the ground. Now, we mentioned it. Just I want to get this in there because I know how passionate you are, and again, as you said earlier about the story, having the purpose, having the reason behind it, the emotion behind the story. And if I can just touch on before we do wind up, is prostate cancer.
Yes.
Now, I know I'm going to let you get on with this because obviously I know it's personal to you.
Yeah.
And if we can, we've given the kind of the business side with the vision and that, but if there's anybody listening that I want you to explain your story so they can hopefully save another life. So,
yeah, and also their own.
Yeah.
So it was in 2016 at Mace, and Mace had a brilliant private medical insurance that was actually optional. And as luck would have it, I took that option. And in 2014, I'd had my biannual, every 2 years, men's complete health check. And what happened was that when do you want to have your prostate checked? Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I didn't know. That was the only bit I knew. That's the only bit I knew. You know, like the digital rectum exam, commonly known as the finger up the bum.
Yeah.
So I didn't think anything really of it because I didn't actually know what the prostate did. I knew it was up your bum somewhere, but there again, as my wife said, most things are either down your throat or up your bum, isn't it? Whichever route you go. And so I just didn't think much of it. You know, I was more concerned about my weight at the time and my cardiovascular, and I'd given up smoking some years before, but you know, it was very sweet. She said, "You're overweight." Like anyone standing in a pair of pants, he's overweight, doesn't he? The nurse. And anyway, so cut a long story short,
just a mirror.
The most important thing that came back, I didn't know this, was that my prostate-specific antigen blood test, the PSA, had come back raised, elevated. Meant nothing to me. I went and saw my GP, as I was instructed to do, and he said, "Oh, that's rubbish." So I said, "What's rubbish?"
Oh, really?
The PSA, we'll have to do it again. I said, "Oh, did they do it wrong?" He said, No, it's a useless test. So I said, "Why did we do it?" So it's the only one we got. We'll do it again. I said, "No, okay." And I got a phone call to say, "Don't worry, it's all right." No, that was it. So I'm none the wiser. And I go, "Oh, okay." But obviously I was worried in between. 2 years forward, it's 2016, Jude says to me, "If they ask for the PSA, Elvin, do not have it." See, we meant far too much worry last time over nothing. I'm a lot happier now because I've lost a lot of weight. So I don't mind being in my underpants. You know, la-di-da-di-da. And then I know what's going to happen next. You know, PSA, and that was the problem. So I'm having a talk, and she said, "Do you want the PSA?" "Yeah, go on." And when I get home, she said, "You told me we weren't going to do it." I said, "No, I just forgot, babe." And it's the luckiest mistake I ever made. It wasn't a mistake because it came back. It's elevated. Oh, here we go again. So, my GP's changed. Woman, all 5 foot of her. And she sat me down and she said, "No, we're going to have to look at this because it's raised." I said, "No, it's rubbish." She said, "No, it's not, Elvin. It's not rubbish." So they said, "No, it's been raised again. It's the second time in 2 years." I said, "But they said there was worried about my blood pressure." So she did me blood. She said, "It's all right. Don't worry about it." So I said, "What are we going to do?" She said, "It's easy." I said, "You're on private medical. There's a perfectly good consultant at Brentwood at the Spire, Ange Bolero. You'll be referred, and away you go." I'm scared. I'm a bloke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like doctors. I don't want anything to be wrong with me. I know
Yeah.
nothing about this, what's going on. So actually, I tried to be late for the appointment. Ange Bolero called me on my mobile. I said, "Oh,
To be late.
I'm some way away." He said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll wait." I thought, what's he going to do? Anyway, cut a long story short, it's very quick. Very nice guy. We're soon talking about the nitty gritty. He does a DRE. He did it differently, by the way. He was digging for oil.
Yeah.
And because he said, "I think I found something." I said, "Here, Australia." Jesus. Anyway, cut a long story short, it all moved on. So what happened? Right, we do an MRI scan. Yeah, we're going to do an MRI scan. MRI scan. No, there's something there. It must be cancer. Well, I can't promise you that, Elvin. Can we do something now? No, you've got to go now. We've got to have a biopsy. The minute I walk in, we sit down and Ange Bolero says it's cancer. So I phased out after that. I left it to Jude. And it meant that they had to do... when I did say something, it said, "Am I going to die?" He said, "I don't think so." I wanted to say, "No," but I said, "I don't think so."
He had his thinking. Yeah.
So that led to a bone scan. And that's the first time. It was good news, ish. It's a curative stage. And you've got two options: have it taken out, go down to radiotherapy, hormones. Here's the consultants. We go on holiday tomorrow. Well, while you're away, I had to do it when I was away because this is July. And 2 weeks of July I've taken up with me in Turkey.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of the time on the phone trying to think things up. And anyway, we got back. I went and saw the radiotherapist, Stephanie, up at Bromford. Then I went and saw Declan at the Shard, fun enough, that Mason built. That was a bit odd. And I had to make a decision. Interesting. Again. Another lesson learned. Yes. Declan was brilliant. Knew how to sell to me what he thought was best for me. He said, "I can tell you, Elvin, I have to persuade you
To have the operation.
Yeah, which I can tell you, and they say,
At that point, you were reluctant.
because he said I was one of the most reluctant patients he'd ever seen. He said, even to this day, because I'm still in touch with him, I thank him every year. I'm still here. And God bless him. Yeah, so prostatectomy. And although my PSA raised only slightly, God bless Declan, I called him up because it happened 2 years late. He said, "Look, Elvin, with those," he said, "you're all right." He said, "If it goes up to 0.2, we get you down to see Stephanie. She can give it some radiotherapy. You'll be fine. Don't worry." Again, he convinced me not to worry. And so far, my fingers crossed, I have to go back there every 12 months and I'm still clear.
Just to summarise then, obviously, because we are coming to the end of the period, but for anybody, any man listening, anybody born a man listening, what advice would you give them? Is there any kind of key elements that you would say to just encapsulate what your story, obviously your story is incredibly traumatic and lucky, yeah, because again, the time, and if you'd listened to Jude, but if you'd,
That's right.
But on a serious note, what advice would you give people listening?
Yeah, is that at 40, you can't get a PSA free. National Health won't do it. I don't know any private medical insurance that will cover you at 40. The rule of thumb for NHS and for private medical is if your dad has had prostate cancer, or your brother, or your dad's uncle, or your granddad, you can come to see us at 45. If you're of the black community, 1 in 4 will get prostate cancer.
Wow.
There's a lot of black urologists say more like 1 in 3, and they get it early and they get it aggressive. but then they can go at 45. The rest of you got to wait till 50. Do not come towards this door until you got, because you're not going to get in. That's private and generally private. Anyway, so what you do.
But the PSA test is a legitimate test. Your doctor back in the story
Yeah.
said that's a load of nonsense. You should have a PSA.
Yeah. So what happens is that I went private and they just said, would you like a PSA? When you go as a national health, you have to have a consultation to know the risks. And the only risk is that the PSA can sometimes not quite measure it accurately. My PSA was not particularly high, but they found out by doing more tests, it was really, really aggressive. So aggressive, on the 1st of August, Andrew Blair said, have you made up your mind yet? I said, nearly. We went through it. He said, you've got all the things right. I said, you're going to make one wrong decision, Elvin, not to do something. He said, you've got to do something by the end of August, or we're coming back in again, and I'm going to give you another bone scan. He said, I was not going to hang around in your prostate much longer. So, and there's another, if you want to persuade somebody, that's what he did. I'll give you a time frame. I'm telling you the story. I can tell you the story. There's 2 stories, Elvin. Get it done, you don't. 2 different endings. Again, very brilliantly done. Declan sold it to me. But what I'm now saying to people is that see what you can get home testing kits. And for a few bob, you can get someone to actually do the test. And so I would say to everybody, at 40 years of age, if you're born with a prostate, by the way, those men who transition, it includes you. When they do a transition, they do not remove the prostate. I've spoken to Emma on a help self-help group. Emma transitioned 5-6 years ago, prostate cancer. At 40, start finding out what the PSA is saying. Is it low? Is it high? And then you can track it. Because the worst thing in the world you could be told is the first PSA. Loads of guys do. The first PSA, it's incurable. So get in there early. By the time you get to 45, whatever you can do, if you have the finances, you get yourself onto a private medical insurance. There is some who will do a very proactive prostate screening by their product, because they'll kick you off at 45.
All right.
And they will give you the best service, i.e. you will get the right treatment, part of your diagnosis, and you don't have to go to a local. You could be living in Scotland saying, I don't like these blokes up here. We've got plenty to choose from down here. Okay. So kick off at 40 any way you can, doing PSAs. Get private medical. If you can't get private medical, what you need to do is carry on. If it's not in the family, you're not black until you're 50. And when you go to see the GP, you say to them, look, I understand the biggest risk is not actually having this, because if we do not do this, we're not going to find out if we can kick off and look at the process.
Getting in early, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't play catch up.
Like we were saying, what is the vision? What right way back there? No, Elvin, you want to be a professional footballer. No, Elvin, you want to be in construction management. No, Elvin, you don't want to die of prostate cancer. It's not the PSA, it's the process to get you ensure. You can't stop it. I can't tell anyone how to not get prostate cancer, but I can tell you how you can be there, so when it comes, you're ready and armed.
But as we're coming to a close, Elvin, I'd really appreciate, obviously, you going into your prostate story. But if there's anybody listening now from a business perspective,
yes.
say from a construction, wanting to get into construction or having a career in construction or to grow or scale their business, what advice would you give them? And then, again, you very keenly and astutely summarise the prostate, but what advice would you give the businessman, and what advice would you give a man to summarise what you've just said? Yeah,
so if it's a business, I do what I call a strip back strategy. And so I know that even Tom Peters, I go against what Tom Peters says. He's like the business guru, isn't he? The boy. He said he doesn't believe in visions. But okay, don't call it a vision. But what is it you're trying? What
we're trying to achieve.
What do you want to try and achieve?
Yeah.
And it needs to. I love the phrase. It needs to be big, hairy, and audacious, beyond grasp. But so important. I'm going to give everything till I get there. Definitely me with the MBA. 2K son. And when you know that, you really have got a mission. So I've got to know the purpose. I've got to be able to say, these are our values, these are the behaviours, and that's the strategy. That's what I would say to the business.
It's also, I always say as well, from that, having that succinct and embedded, it's so much easier to employ people. So much easier to get the right people on board, because you're selling. You're not just selling a job; you're selling aspirations.
Yeah. And it's absolutely vital. Why, as I say, Henry Mintzberg is a brilliant business writer. I would urge people to look him up. He's brilliant, really good. And he says you don't have to be the biggest. That was the Elliot thing. Very. Not Elliot. Elliot always said, "I want to be the best." Mintzberg said, "Look and be the best." And there's so many actors say you have to be undeniably good. You've got a track record. That's why they will employ you. Obviously, especially in the acting game. And it's exactly the same with the business. You have to be undeniably good. The size is immaterial in success. And Mintzberg, if he warns people, then I would. You could say, looking back, if you had poor old John, he's passed now, but John, you just said you want to be the best, but unfortunately you started out trying to be one of the biggest. You started to move into an area you didn't have the resource and capability for too soon. You've got, this is the resource and capability that backs the strategy.
Yeah, it's where he started to acquire all these businesses, the culture, everything became a little bit fragmented.
Yeah, very quickly, Ray. There's search and select. Bovis were really good at it. John wasn't so. And the strategy. If you've never bought a business, go and find out how to buy a business. So Frank Lampard, God bless his cotton socks, he always said that when he bought a business, he needed to put someone in there who was Bovis. And they were sent in, not the highest one, the most knowledgeable one. The one that wasn't going to take up everybody's attention. I want to find the dead bodies. The ones we couldn't find. I want to know where it's going wrong before it hits us. That was a fact. And so that don't get said in every business book around the world. So for the one-man band or the really quite big band, it is extraordinarily important. You do search and select. It's all down to what's the purpose of this business. That's our values. That's our behaviours. That's our strategy. Unless we can get person organisation fit, you'll get loads person job fit. Loads. Yeah. But person organisation, that's another matter.
Yeah, right person, right seat. Yeah. And
this whole thing about why are you expanding? And if you're going to purchase another business, this is search and select times 10. It can bring down your business. And that is a fact. You can buy somebody that looks brilliant on the surface, but no, you've bought trouble one way or the other.
Yeah.
And if you want to get into this mad, silly game, it is especially you've got to understand the construction business. Like, we were very fortunate. We did start at the lowest level. And we managed to come out, and you could see where things are going wrong. And by the way, role modelling is very difficult. Do your best to get with the right companies on the way up. Frank Sibley said to me, he said, "We're not going to take you on." He said, "I do not want you to go to a lower club. Don't go to the 3rd division, Elvin. They won't look after you." And that's another thing. If you see Buddha, I had a conversation with a woman on a train coming back from Manchester. She'd just been offered a job with this great company. This is great. She was with a very firm company. The company, she found out on the way back, someone had said to her, they're not in a very good financial position.
Yeah.
So she put the top on the wine bottle, put it in a bag, and I said, "That's the best phone call you'll ever get." Because it was, you could get your own team in, you could do this, you could do this. but you have to have a viable business to do that. So has that helped?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think just to wrap it all up, obviously, if anybody wants to have Elvin turn up to do a talk on prostrate, I'll ask him to give his contact details in a sec. But also, if you have a business that is aspirational, it is looking to scale and grow, or you want somebody to come in and look at your business strategy, then give Elvin a call. Obviously, I know Elvin, I can vouch for Elvin. And how would they contact you, Elvin, if they do?
Well, the easiest thing is my name, which is Elvin.Box at outlook.com.
Right.
And
Okay.
I've worked with major multinationals and also companies that are 4 people. So I do know the spread, but everything I learnt in business and on an MBA, learning because I actually tutored strategy. So that's where I learnt how to tell it to students. So that's why it's stripped back. I can explain it in as simple as terms as possible. Apparently, I'm very good at removing complexity and simplifying.
On that note, thank you very much for coming, and long may it continue.
Now, thank you so much, Ray, for bringing me down to good old South Wimbledon for a chat. So many memories have come back, and we go back. Well, so needless to say, Graham, I had hair at the time. We had more energy than you could burn. And so I'm very, very grateful to come down, especially a lovely place like that. Thank you so much for letting me be able to come down and give my war wounds, my war stories.
Yeah. Actually, to be fair, 1 hour isn't enough, but maybe in the future we'll do another one. Yeah, but it's been great seeing you again. And I wish you every success.
And you, mate. Thank you so much.
Cheers, mate.